the solar eclipse on April 8th. This is what I want to read to you. And I'm gonna pull out this video so that I'm gonna like make it special for those of you who just want to watch about the solar eclipse. This is it. This is talking about the astrology for the solar eclipse on April 8th. Here, let me read this quote to you that I had off of Instagram. It was so cool. Avoid the temptation to make choices that are familiar but no longer serve you. Was that really a good choice or just a comfortable one? Is that really who you are or who you are limiting yourself to be? Think about it. The sun in Aries, so the first house, which is the house of self, on knowing who you are, thinking of who you are, being all about who you are, and the sun, which is our heart space and also represents the ego and the father and the life force energy, is about to be darkened by the moon. Understand this, my friends. The moon doesn't actually stop any of the sun's radiation or the energy that it feeds to the earth that actually nurtures things on earth. The moon is only blocking the light, the visual impact. And so who you visually appear to be, the ego that you have built, is about to be dimmed and humbled. And in that moment, maybe we can rediscover the truth of who we are, instead of what we have foolishly deceived ourselves to believe we are. And in that clarity, God help us to find our true path again. Because this eclipse will have permanent impact, and the choices that you make now will determine, you're going to fuck up for the next few years or are you going to break through? And it's only through humility that you're going to be able to actually break through. So many of us, and I'll attach the video above, so many of us are celebrating this eclipse in the wrong way. We're making big spectacles out of it. It's the opposite. You're supposed to stay inside. You're supposed to allow the light to go out. You're supposed to go inside, introspective, and understand and allow the darkness to reveal the truths that you have easily ignored because of all the shadows and light dancing on the wall. Okay, this is a time for you to cleanse and reflect, especially during Mercury retrograde. The last thing for you to do would be to take big actions and do extraordinary things around this eclipse. Let it humble you, let it humiliate you, let it bring you down to the darkness where you are going to rediscover your soul. The soul's light never goes out, and we find ourselves in the dark. That's what I want to say about this eclipse. Let's get more into the astrology, okay? It is conjunct Mercury retrograde, I think, within 5 degrees of it, because it's at 19. The eclipse happens at 19 degrees Aries. It's conjunct Mercury retrograde. It's conjunct the North Node, and it's conjunct Chiron. And that is why I am mentioning to you humility. Learning through making mistakes and bowing down to those mistakes as teachers. That's Chiron, as opposed to being defensive and letting your ego like fight against him. Lean in to say, what the fuck is this trying to teach me? The North Node is all about moving forward, but we got to move forward humbly. We got to move forward on our knees. Think of that scene from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. How do you behave in the presence of God? Humbly. You kneel so your head doesn't get chopped off. Remember at the end of the Last Crusade where you had to go through all those three booby traps? Kneel. That's how my head doesn't get chopped off, but somebody else's did. Kneel. Be humble. This is what we need right now. Chiron in Aries is very heroic energy. I'm not going to let that ever happen to anybody else. Like, I am becoming the hero. No, you're becoming the joke. Chiron is trying to teach the self how to be truer to its nature as opposed to its ego. So the past will burn up. It's a vengeance. This isn't just an eclipse, it's a vengeance, but it's personal. The past will burn up in the ether on this one. Anything that has been lingering, holding on by a thread, it's going to be over. And hopefully what's going on inside of us, we can just shed that skin. Finding the courage and the voice to speak out against injuries, suffering, anything that you've been tolerating for too long and has been dragging you down. This is when it ends and something new begins. It's like a total reset. With Mercury retrograde involved, this could be literal, especially in those areas of totality, the total eclipse. I posted this on my Instagram as well. You'll see what areas in the United States on other, well, it's just for the United States, what the areas of the United States where it's covered. I know it's like, it goes across, starts from Texas and goes across. So it's hitting the Northeast as well and different parts of the Midwest. So it's hitting a lot of different people in that point of totality. So an electronic reset that won't take prisoners. So it could have to do with electronics too. We'll get into also why, because guess what? Jupiter and Uranus are conjunct at the same time. And there's definitely innovations coming through. This is a hard restart, confronting major handicaps. Yes, it could be physical, but also mental, that have impeded our process and progress. Mental blocks won't be permitted anymore. So a forced restart, to be clear. Many, many cruel statements and criticisms will come up again to remind you of what you are not and where you do not belong. Go forward, move past it. At last, this is the new you, but also the real you in full effect.